Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. Hope you guys are waking up and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having an awesome weekend out there so far. There is a good bit to talk about in this morning's video, and most of it's going to be about today into tonight's weather. So the first thing we'll cover is current conditions. We'll go over the latest outlooks. We'll spend a lot of time on that Storm Prediction Center outlook because that is what's going to make today's weather pretty active, is severe weather chances. And then we'll break down the country section by section. We'll zoom into some individual states that do run the higher risk of severe storms for today into tonight. And after we get done doing all of that, we will speak on the days to come, but we're not going to spend a super long time on that or go past the next couple of days, just because I do think there's just enough to talk about over the next really 1 to 3 days. So we'll do all that. We'll get detailed in this video, and there'll be plenty of timestamps for you guys to take advantage of. And, if you're just worried about a certain state, there should be a timestamp up for that. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or others can pray about or we all can pray about, please put it in the comments below so we can do that. Prayer is powerful. If it's unspoken, put that. And it's an awesome community in the comments. All you got to do is read the comments and you'll see how positive everybody is for the most part. And honestly, I haven't seen any negative comments lately. You typically see more of that when the videos get more views and you get new viewers. And some of these new viewers might be a little bit more negative, a little bit more harsh. But, all we can do is be positive. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest on current conditions. We do have a big area of energy moving across the middle of the country. Sort of complexes of storms, if you will, kind of congealed up mess. Some of these areas of storms are severe this morning, especially moving across southern Kansas. We have flash flood warnings. If I put my cursor over these like orange, yellow boxes right here, this is where we're getting way too much rain. We have flash flood warnings in place. So we do have an area of what I would say is a pretty much needed rain. I mean, we're not getting major drought conditions in the southeast anymore from all that rain we got back in the early portion of May, but we're getting some rain, even some storms. We got an area of storms moving across regions of eastern Georgia right now. And we continue to have this spin up here in the northeast and southeast Canada. We can just not completely shake this energy, this lower pressure up here, so it continues to spin away. So this is current conditions. So let's spend some time on the Storm Prediction Center outlook here, and we're going to take a close-in look here at the southern tier of the country. We already are waking up to an enhanced risk. The common theme over the last couple of days is we wake up to a slight risk, and then it uptrends to an enhanced risk. We already have that this morning. So if you live in that orange region, portions of northern Texas, central and southern and southwestern Oklahoma, this is an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5. Oklahoma City down to Lubbock, Childress, Lawton, Norman, you guys, Wichita Falls, you're all included into this. And then we have the slight risk, which goes from a small section of eastern New Mexico through a good chunk of Oklahoma, almost all the way down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My call on any tweaks on the outlook today, I don't think we'll go up to a moderate risk, is that they'll extend the higher risk areas down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I think they'll pull the enhanced risk a little bit further southeast, and I'll talk about why here in a second. And I think they'll pull the slight risk a little bit further to the southeast also. But slight risk does go all the way through Arkansas, all the way into northern Alabama, northern Mississippi, and sections of southwest and southern Tennessee. And we got the marginal risk in the dark green, a level 1 out of 5. So what's driving this? This is our tornado outlook, and we'll scoot this over just a little bit like that. The brown area, that's a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of a given location. The green area is a 2% risk. And then we look at the wind outlook, the red region, that is a 30% chance of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the yellow area is a 15% risk of that. But if you notice, we have that black outline region with the black dashes going in between. That is a hatched risk of significant severe wind gust, which means there's a 10% risk of winds exceeding, say, 70, 75, 80 miles per hour within 25 miles of any given location in this region. So this is what's different compared to maybe yesterday, is the wind threat is much higher. And the hail threat, kind of the same as the last few days, pretty high. If you live in that red area, that is a 30% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. The yellow area is a 15% risk of that. And the black outline region is a a 10% risk of significant size tail, which is 2-inch in diameter or larger. Now, we know last night the severe weather threat did not materialize in Oklahoma at all, and that happens. Sometimes we have a capping mechanism in place, a warm air loft, and these storms can just not get going. And it was a big, I would say it was a pretty decent model fail off the HRRR model with developing a few supercells in Oklahoma, and they just really never got going. So hopefully that's the same for today, but I think today's setup is totally different. We're not going to avoid storms for today, but the excessive rainfall outlook, this will get overlooked because everybody focuses on the severe weather part of it. But basically from Oklahoma City to Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Arkansas, down to the Red River, if you live in that red area, that is a 40% risk of flash flooding occurring. The yellow area is a 15% risk of that. So just be aware of too much rain falling and too little of a period of time in this region for today. So the hurricane outlook, no tropical activity expected over the next 7 days. But, like I said, I'm gonna start showing this more and more, especially obviously when there's something to track, but there's nothing going on out there. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We have severe thunderstorm watches up in those pink colors, flood watches up in the green, and we got the flash flood warnings in that burgundy. We got some dense fog up here. We had some hailstorms up here in Colorado yesterday, and I think we'll get it again today. Watch out Denver, and I'll speak on that here in a second. But we'll take a broad look at all these sections of the country first. So this is from this morning all the way through tomorrow morning, and what you'll notice is that area of energy moving out of Arkansas into Tennessee, and we got more so pop-up activity down here. But I do want to watch out for some storms that are likely going to get going here in the low country of South Carolina, southeast Georgia. We got pop-up activity more so in Florida, and just kind of waves of storms cruising across areas of the deep and mid-south, and then everything will dip down to the Gulf Coast line and then probably weaken, and then we're probably waking up to a whole lot of energy in Louisiana. But let's go on and get a little bit closer to some of these areas. This is Tennessee and Kentucky. Really focus on Tennessee. And as we're starting to get to about lunchtime, 1-2 p.m., just if you live down here in Memphis, Jackson, even up to Nashville, you'll probably get some storms early this afternoon into the middle to late portion of the afternoon. And eventually they'll drift on down into Alabama and Mississippi, maybe northern Georgia. But if you live in, I would say, Memphis over to Columbia, through middle Tennessee, back down to Jackson, kind of this area right here, watch out for some storms around lunchtime through about the middle portion of the afternoon. And we jump down into Mississippi and Alabama, quiet through about midday, but then we start to get into about mid to late afternoon. And as you can tell, some storms start to enter the northern portion of the state up there near, I know Memphis is in Tennessee, but kind of around the border area up there. Florence, Huntsville, you guys will start to experience a risk of strong to severe storms around 5 p.m. This is 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Big draping line of storms start to sweep across northern Mississippi, storms in northern Alabama. And I really think this will begin to weaken, but there's a chance that it could hold together more than what modeling is showing. This is 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and this is midnight to night. Storms are still cruising across both these states, and I think that these storms will eventually try to make it all the way to Montgomery, Auburn, maybe Monroeville, maybe all the way to Dothan by the time we get into daybreak tomorrow. So now, South Carolina and Georgia, there's an area of storms right now going through, and I really think model guidance is not picking up on it well. So we're actually going to switch this to the, it's still not picking up on it well. So we can only look at what we can look at, but there is right now a pretty strong line of storms moving across this area of Georgia, and models are just not picking up on it. But I do think regardless, as we get into about midday, showing a lot of downpour activity around Columbia. But if you look down here, we're going to get some storms that really get going. And this is around 4 to 5 p.m. It shows some pretty intense storms down here. Right now we only have a marginal risk of severe weather down here. But I do wonder if they're going to upgrade to a slight risk. Show some intense thunderstorms. We'll see if this is what actually happens. But, we get into 3 p.m., 4 p.m. If you live in Statesboro, over to Savannah, Charleston, up to Orangeburg, just be careful with these storms for today. They could pack one heck of a punch. And then we start to get into the late evening hours, and we could have a line of storms moving into like Atlanta, up into like northern sections of Georgia. And as we get past this time frame, could have some energy that moves into the upstate to South Carolina, but I don't think it'll be too bad at all. So the Northeast, we're going to unfortunately get the showers and scattered downpours that will pop up around this upper low. And, this is around, say, 4 p.m. this afternoon in Vermont, New Hampshire, just this entire area. And if you notice, you got these little splotches of yellow, orange, and red. And there's a lot of cold air aloft up here. So do not be surprised if, you get a heavier downpour and you get some ice pellets mixed in. And it's really just some small hail. So if you get some hail with some of these downpours up here, don't be surprised one bit. But we get into this evening and just showers kind of drifting down from the north, sweeping on through. I think down here in Virginia, it'll be just a light rain that moves in later this evening. So if you like a rainy night, you'll like tonight in Virginia. But outside of that, no significant weather expected up here. Different story down here in the south central U.S. Once again, we'll take a broad look at it, and I just want you to show everything that's going on. First off, we got the morning action that's going to be cruising across the rest of Arkansas throughout the morning hours. We get into this afternoon, more storms could form in Arkansas, and I do want to watch to see if they increase the tornado threat in Arkansas, because some of these, look the part as far as potentially spinning thunderstorms. But this is this afternoon, a lot of thunderstorm activity across the state. And then you see all the action that develops here in western Texas and areas of Oklahoma. And there's just a big congealed line of storms sweeps through northern Texas, the southern half of Oklahoma later tonight. And then we're waking up to just a lot of storm activity in northern Texas, northern Louisiana. But, just a closer look at all this, starting from west to east. We'll look at Texas first. Boom, we start to get to 4 p.m. We get these isolated cells that begin to develop. These could produce some very large hail, some gusty winds. Could get some supercells. There's a small risk of tornadoes down here, not very high at all. But we get into 7 p.m., 8 p.m. These storms will continue to be rolling and moving west to east. Just be mindful of these, especially once you get north of Big Spring, Abilene, up into this region. Could be a powerful line of storms right as the sun is setting this evening, and then all of this energy will sweep off to the east. But there definitely could be some storms kind of late afternoon that could pop up as far west as Hobbs and New Mexico, Midland. Just be careful with these storms. And then after we get past the kind of the midnight time frame, additional storms could develop around Abilene, maybe down to San Angelo, and then we're starting to get into tomorrow. Now we take it up to the rest of Texas and Oklahoma. Okay, so we take it to about midday, 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Some storms could be ongoing in eastern Oklahoma. Model guidance has not done well in this region over the last couple of days, but this is about all we can look at. But we have a lot of storms just kind of hanging out around a boundary in eastern Oklahoma. This will just cause, this will allow for the refiring of constant thunderstorm development. But this is when some nasty storms could develop from Amarillo down to Lubbock, Childress. They'll kind of congeal together pretty quickly. We could have a tornado threat that increases, and this is 7 p.m., this is 8 p.m., just rapid thunderstorm development. We got some pretty intense thunderstorms all the way up to Elk City, and this is what I'm concerned about. You see this kind of open sector here? Energy will be feeding into the kind of southern flank of these storms, so we could get some tornadoes in this area right here. There could be some sort of boundary that provides a little bit of an extra spin in the atmosphere, but we start to get at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., a couple things going on. Line of storms blasting through northern Texas. A lot of storm activity sort of dancing around southern Oklahoma. This could also get a flooding threat ongoing. We could have a line of storms that develops back here in the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. Look at all this heavy rain. Flooding threat could really become an issue. We get into 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So, and just taking a closer look at northern Texas itself, we're starting to get into, it's jammed up here. Let me give it a boost. Click this. This is 3 p.m., not a whole lot going on. Okay, this is 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Could have some storms sort of dancing around up there in Sherman, Paris. along the Red River. But the big show comes in later tonight as we start to get into 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight. Big area of storms cruising north and south of that Red River area. So this is, like I said, midnight. You see these circles embedded in some of this convection. This is where we could have more intense, potentially rotating updrafts. And this looks like a pretty intense line of storms, like right in the middle of the night in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, sweeping across northeast Texas. Mary, be careful. Could have a really severe line of storms that sweeps through well after midnight tonight. And then just could have a lot of thunderstorm activity hanging out around a boundary that's sagged a little bit further south at this point in northern Texas. So a very rowdy night in North Texas tonight. But Arkansas, you're going to deal with the energy this morning. A line of storms going to sweep through the northern counties of the state. This could produce strong to severe thunderstorm activity, a lot of heavy rain. Then we get into early this afternoon. More storms will develop. Watch out for a little bit of a tornado threat with this. This action will be a little bit further south, more so in central Arkansas. It's around 3 p.m. Stormy conditions from Fort Smith, Russellville, Little Rock over to Memphis. And could be a little bit of a flash flooding threat with this too. And then a lot of this action will drift further south, sneak into Mississippi, sneak into the southern areas of the state. It's kind of a north to south sagging area of storms. And by the time we get into later tonight, things could calm down for a period. And then we start to have more action that could move in to greet you guys for your Monday morning as a line of storms enters the southwestern areas of the state. One thing that I got to remember showing you guys is rainfall. And this is rainfall between now and the next 36 hours in Arkansas. Good bit of rain. And to switch it and look back in this region too. Let's see. Let's click on that. Good bit of rain. Dallas-Fort Worth area going for 2 to as much as 3.5 inches of rain. And then we look at Oklahoma too. Oklahoma City could get 3 to 4 inches of rain. The entire eastern half of the state could get 3 to 4 inches of rain. So flash flooding could materialize into a much bigger deal sometime over the next 24 hours for sure. So they dip down. I look at Louisiana starting around mid-morning. We get to about lunchtime today, early, mid-afternoon. Not a lot going on. And I really don't think the weather will get bad if it does until later tonight. But we could get some storms developing there in southwest Mississippi and southeastern areas of Louisiana. And then some storms sweep down to northern Louisiana. But we have to see if these are still held together. But it will at least get some rain into northern Louisiana later on tonight. And then a lot of action could refire as we're waking up tomorrow morning in northern Louisiana, the northern parishes here. So Alexandria up to Shreveport, Monroe, a lot of storm activity to greet you guys for tomorrow morning. So up here in the south central U.S., some showers hanging around with us in the eastern UP, some showers down here in southern Illinois, southern Indiana, moving across maybe southern Ohio too. But the immediate Great Lakes and north central, upper Midwest area, I mean, not really an active day of weather at all. So enjoy your day. Now out west, the only thing I'll watch for is really Colorado. You see some energy shooting out the Front Range. So outside of that, some showers overnight in the Pacific Northwest. But just to take a closer look at Colorado, those definitely show some attention to you guys. So 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Look at that storm popping up right over the Denver metro. We saw it yesterday in a couple areas. My buddy Gerald's out here chasing, certainly getting his cup filled with chasing out here in the plains. But, you know, we're probably going to get another couple hailstorms that pop up. And unfortunately, you know, it looks like by this model guidance, and, you know, we know that this is just guidance, but it has this storm popping up right on top of Denver. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But it's probably going to happen for someone. Someone's going to get a nasty hailstorm around the Front Range for today. So just be aware of this. Tornado threat's pretty low, but you're going to get some hail with these storms with just being further up in elevation, colder air aloft. So temperatures is what it's looking like. Warming up a little bit more in the northeast, but still chilly. Kind of more of a spring type day across the Ohio Valley, Midwest, but it's warm and humid for the deep south. And this is the western U.S. pocket of cooler air right here across the central high plains, but it's warming on up out west. 70s, 80s. I mean, even in the higher elevations are pretty warm. Storm Prediction Center outlook for tomorrow, kind of like today, but a little bit further south, or slight risk, or higher risk of severe weather is further south, right here in the middle of Texas into eastern areas of the state. Slight risk, level 2 out of 5. Marginal risk does get all the way up to just about the Kansas-Oklahoma border and slashes across areas of the deep south. And this is really for, tornado threat is at a 5% risk. Wind threats, 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60. And the hail threat, there is a risk of significant sized hail, more so in west central Texas, San Angelo, Abilene, you guys. But we'll get a lot more focused on this in the next video. But the risk of flash flooding is a little bit further south and east too. So Dallas-Fort Worth up to Little Rock, Memphis, down to Shreveport, all the way through the Huntsville, Florence area. This is in the yellow where we have a 15% risk of flash flooding occurring. And then we'll bump it back to this and go to that. We do have a marginal risk a little bit further south than tomorrow's severe weather threat. So this is for Tuesday. I don't want to call this Monday, but this is for Tuesday's severe weather threat. So we are just going to have more strong and severe thunderstorm activity, and we could end up getting a slight risk for this day. We just have to watch out and see what happens here. But if we look at the excessive rainfall outlook for day 3, there is no yellow areas, just a pretty large green area, which is a 5% risk of flash flooding. But rainfall between now and around 7 a.m. Friday, a lot of it. And a lot of this is going to fall over the next 36 hours that you see here. But as you can tell, the pattern supports rainy times and stormy times across the south and southern tier of the country. This is how much rain could fall between now and 8 a.m. Friday across the deep south and the southeast. Good bit of rain on the way. And we'll go a little bit further north. Okay, good bit of rain. And this could eventually climb up the eastern seaboard. And we will take a closer look at the mid-Atlantic here. So more rainy times is on the way later this week now for the mid-Atlantic also. So that's all I got, guys. 23 minutes, that's not too long for my standards. But you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and appreciate all the support. And God bless everybody. Have a wonderful day.